So hello everyone, and this video is filmed when I'm tired after a long day around 9 p.m. and I think it will resonate with you quite a bit, because you'll also probably be watching this video when you're tired in the evening preparing for the BBE entrance exam. So this video I will not edit that much. I will just give you some last minute tips and exam taking strategies that you should know before the exam day, and also some experience of the students, so that you, let's say, can avoid some technical difficulties or some, let's say, score point maximization strategies that you can use. So let's get started. So first of all, let's just start off by saying that the exam consists of 33 questions. So you have 13 mathematical questions with each question per topic. So if you're studying for the mathematics part and you recently started, you have 13 topics to study, and you say, okay, realistically, I might not study all of them. So let's say if you have one topic that you hate, you like absolutely can't stand, let's say, be it inequalities or be it financial mathematics and so on and so forth. Now you should focus on maximizing what you know, not spiraling down into what you don't know. So of course, try to revise it, try to at least get a brief overview of it, but still focus on your strengths, because on the exam you don't need 100% to get in. Even the first place in 2023 didn't get, like, the person didn't get 100%, they got a bit above 92%. So you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be the best, you just have to give your best performance on the day. And yeah, so last year the acceptance rate, like the acceptance score, was around 82%. So the person with 82 exactly got a 238th spot, so very close. That's why it's kind of the benchmark as of last year. And this year I would expect, let's say, if last year there was around 3,360 people applying, this year you could expect more or less 4,000, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. And then the acceptance rate could be around maybe 85%. But let's say these are just my assumptions, educated guesses based on the experiences from last year and how the number of applicants and how the acceptance rate develops over the years. So yeah, so that's just, you know, that you don't have to get 100% on the exam, so don't be perfectionist now. Now is not the time. So please use the best of the time that you have left, revise everything. And if you have one topic that you don't like in mathematics, it's okay. You can, for example, on the exam, guess it, never leave anything blank, because, well, you don't get negative points, you get partial points. Therefore, just guess it, move on, flag it, there is a flag option, and then come back to it when you have the time and once you solved everything that you've solved. Also, a thing that helps with mathematics is that the order of the questions will be exactly the same as on the website. So first you will have logic, then you go with elementary algebra and so on. So you have some function questions, and finally statistic questions. So there, if you look at the topic list now and you find your strengths, you can write out a strategy with what you do first, what you do second, what you do third, and the rest, so that you don't waste time on it during the exam. You can skim through the questions. Let's say in 1 minute you can see, okay, what's easier, what's less easy, like what's easier, what's harder, and I'll just turn off the notifications. And then, yeah, to basically know already more or less your strategy, and to not kind of spend time deciding what to start with on the exam. And also on the exam, you can go through any part at any point. You have no time restrictions per part. It's just 2.5 hours in total that you can use however you like. And you can also skip through questions. You can basically start with English or start with mathematics or economics. There is no restrictions there. And you can also, let's say if you're doing economics, halfway, you can also switch to English. So you don't have to finish a part to move on to the next part. So yeah, it's up to you with which part you start. Some people prefer to start with the economics part because it weighs the most points. So each point weighs 4 questions, and you have 10 questions in total for the economics part, so you have 40%. So yeah, that's one strategy. And then people do the English part, and then the mathematics part, because English and economics you should do relatively well, but with less time compared to mathematics. Ideally, it would be like an hour or less for economics and English combined, and then you have 1.5 hours at least for the mathematics part, because trust me, you will need that time, as you have to take quite a lot of notes. Some people say, I will start with and also if you start with English and economics, if those parts are relatively easier for you compared to mathematics, you'll also feel a bit mentally better when you get to the math questions, and you will not feel as bad as if you have to guess one question, or if you're not sure about this statement. So you will feel a bit better, and this mental state will also help you not overthink questions, not get stressed, not get stuck on questions. Because getting stuck on a question is the worst feeling, and I will let you know how you should deal with it a bit later. And yeah, also some people decide to start with the English part first, because they say that they need like their full focus for the English text. And it's okay, I'll start with English, I will do it relatively fast, then I will move on to economics and then to mathematics. Some people are in reverse, so to say, like they do like the opposite of that. They say, okay, I want more focus for the mathematics part and I want as much time as I can get for the math part, because I know technically, I know economics and English very well, and I can just rush those two parts. So yeah, there are 3 different strategies with 3 different parts, and all of them make sense. It's up to you and your, let's say, type of, like, which part do you prefer, which part do you find easier, which part you need more focus for, and which part you need more time for. So please adjust the strategy I'm telling you according to your, let's say, personal skills and strengths and weaknesses and so on and so forth. Regarding the economics part, that part is the most predictable part, so guys, please study the book, like a bit over 60 pages, and last year there were quite a lot of accounting questions, so out of 10 there were 3 or 4 accounting ones, so quite a big proportion of the total questions. And this year, of course, it might change, because if something was true last year, it might also change in the next one. Let's say you might get 2 accounting questions and a bit more marketing questions, for example. You never know, so please study all the chapters, but just so you know that if you know the accounting questions quite well, and if they repeat the same and they also include quite a lot of accounting, you will need less time for them and you will be less confused or less surprised if you study the accounting chapter quite well, because you have 6 of them, and let's say the first one, you don't really need to write that many notes there, because it's kind of introductory, it's very simple, and if you read all the chapters the same as you read the first one, it's yeah, you shouldn't do that. Because let's say chapter 6 compared to chapter 1 is more formula heavy, it's more understanding heavy, and there you have to spend more time compared to chapter 1. Also, as you can see, there are some concepts that are about price elasticity of the break-even point, and you have an example there, but you don't have a formula that fits any example. So please study that one as well, because on the exam it's really hard to recall the exact numbers that were in the example given to you in the book, and then try to recreate that solution step by step. So please look up those formulas and make sure that you know them. Yeah, regarding the English part, there are 5 text questions, because I've heard from a student of mine, she was taking the exam last year without that much preparation. She told me she only studied for like around 2 weeks or so by herself. And then when she opened the English text, she thought it's just 1 text question. She got 78%, and I'm like, I was so furious, because the acceptance score was 82%. She got 78. Therefore, if she actually clicked through the questions for the text, she probably would have gotten in. So please, there should be 10 questions for English in total, 5 text ones and 5 vocabulary or grammar ones. And the way the text questions are made, you have the text, and you have to click, like the text stays in the same place, it's just the questions that change. So you have to click on the question number, so to say. Yeah, please, because I've heard it recently and I was like, oh no. Yeah, that's my main advice. And also for grammar and vocabulary, at this point it's either you know a word or you don't. It's either you know a rule or you don't. Because of course grammar, it's impossible to know every single word, so if you see a new one, try to get the meaning out of context. Let's say sometimes if the sentence has a relatively positive meaning to it, probably the word, let's say marvelous, let's say maybe the children found the amusement park marvelous, and they were very happy about it, or they were very excited about it. Like from the sentence, you would assume that, let's say if they were happy about it, the word marvelous would mean something nice. Or also for the grammar part, if you are speaking English on a more or less day-to-day basis, if you read a lot, if you write a lot, then you should have some kind of intuition developed already. Of course, when this is also could be a downside, because let's say you speak and you use the right tenses, not because you know when to use them, or you know like the formula, like not the formulas, but like the rules, how to use the tenses and how to combine the times, like so you have like a mixed conditional, for example. You just know, it just feels right. So of course in normal day-to-day life, you don't really need to know all these fancy rules about how to perfectly construct, like how to perfectly mix the tenses so they make sense. You just speak it and it makes sense. And also in university, you don't need to know it perfectly, because of course when you're speaking, it's normal. Professors also, if English isn't the native language, of course people can make tiny typos in text, in speaking and so on and so forth, so it's fine. But on the exam, they will ask pretty precise stuff, especially the conditionals and the tenses, so please revise them. And use your intuition. If a sentence sounds off and you kind of submerge yourself into the English grammar and vocabulary world for the past few, say, days, weeks, months, your intuition is probably right. Also, please watch out for small typos. Let's say even native speakers can miss out on like it's versus it is, or let's say laptop, apostrophe S, or laptops, apostrophe after the S, so that means different things. If the apostrophe is before the S, it's a singular word that's implied. If it's after the S, it's plural. So stuff like that. And also, like, people who know English, like it's the mother tongue, can easily miss those stuff when reading. So please read it attentively. For the text part, the statements, you have 5 questions, and the statements don't go in order of the text. So it's basically 5 questions with 5 statements each. So it's 25 mini statements. And people have different strategies. Let's say some people prefer to read the text first and then from memory answer the statements. And then if they are not sure about something or they don't remember something, they check with the text. Or if the time is short and they're running out of time, they will just go through the questions relatively fast. And if they miss 1 statement or 2 statements up, it's fine, because the text, like the English part, weighs the least. It weighs 21%, with each question ranging from 1 to 3 points, depending on what kind of question it is. And there are 10 questions and total 21%. So like an average of 2 points per question, but of course it differs from question to question. And yeah, and there you can either do it fast and sacrifice a few points to maybe have more mathematics, because there each question weighs 3 points and you have 13 questions, so mathematics is 39% of the English exam. Yeah, or let's say if some people prefer to read the statements first and then go to the text and find information, but the thing is it's 25 statements and you might forget what the first statement was about when you get to the 25th statement. So that strategy might be, so if you're short on time, I would say read the text first and go to the statements later. If you have the time, of course, you can go back and forth. And I've also heard you can highlight in text. So you can highlight important details or like important things from the statements. So yeah, that would be the English part. Also, like more, like say, hard skills advice regarding tasks. So not just general advice, but yeah, of course, like the points and like timing. Because by this point, I think you've heard it quite a few times everywhere regarding the tasks. So, whenever you see a task, it's not always out there to get you. A task can be simple, like you have just, like, I know that you have now trust issues that every statement is a tricky one, but it's not. Some statements are nice, some statements are easy. And the challenge here, and that's a quote that came up that I'm really proud of, is that the challenge of the task is realizing how simple it is, because sometimes it's a scenario task, but if you get the numbers right, what is what, like all the variables and like how the equations are built, then the solving part of it is actually relatively easy. Let's say linear equations and 2 unknowns. So once you get the 2 linear equations with 2 unknowns, then once you get like the system is a linear equation. Like it's relatively simple math to solve, and also to plug in like if you have to do some final calculations in the calculator. So yes, also some tasks, they have different approaches to them. There's, let's say, a graphical approach and let's say calculation approach. Of course, you should pick which one you like best, but also whichever one takes less time, because some statements will be really obvious if you know how the graph looks, or if you can also write an equation to kind of prove what's happening there, and so on and so forth. So some statements will take you, like, I don't know, a few, like maybe 30 seconds to solve. Of course, not all. So it will, of course, level itself out, because let's say some questions will take you maybe like 3 minutes to solve, and another question can take you 8 minutes to solve. It's normal. So don't feel frustrated if a question takes you longer, because another question might take you less. So it will equal itself out, because of course you have 2.5 hours in total. You have 33 tasks, and yes, you can do the calculation of how many minutes you on average can spend per task. It's around 4 to 5. And of course, if you also spend less time on English and economics and you have more time for mathematics, you can maybe spend like 6 or 7 minutes on the math part if you saved up some minutes in the other 2 parts. So yes, and maybe like one task in mathematics will take you 3 minutes, so the other can take you more. So 3 minutes additional from that you saved from there. And also, please, if you have some time left, use it to double check. Use it to come back to questions you weren't sure of, that you maybe flagged. And let's say if you're solving a question that's difficult, or you see that it will take you forever to solve, let's say, inequalities, don't be afraid to move forward. Don't be afraid to move on. Guess it, flag it, come back later. If you're solving a task and it's all going great and fine, and it's going fantastic, but you have a statement that you're really unsure of and you really don't want to solve because it will take you a lot of time to prove if it's true or false. So what you should basically do, you should mark it, guess at least true or false, because if you skip it, you get 0%, like the probability of you getting right is 0%, but if you guess it, it's 50-50 if it's either true or false. And then you should write on a sticky note or in a drawing feature, whatever you prefer, there in the task, which statement you want to come back to. So you flag the whole question, but you answer all the statements, and then you only come back to the statement that you're like really, really unsure if you have some time left. So yes. So even if, let's say, you see a task that is like so frustrating or you're feeling stuck, the thing here is to avoid getting stuck, because no matter what, you should keep on going, keep on solving, and solve everything you possibly can. So let's say maybe questions 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 11 will be your questions that you solve quite easily, and then you come back to the rest. So never ever let yourself waste maybe like 10, 20, 25 minutes on a task. Like, don't let it hold you back from achieving the maximum score that you can, because let's say if you guess a hard task, even if you were solving it, the probability of getting something wrong, or maybe for getting a minus if it's in a big inequality task, is kind of high. So there, guessing or solving it kind of maybe makes a bit of a difference, but still. But let's say if you, because of this task, you don't have enough time to solve the task that you actually could, let's say a binomial distribution task, that's usually relatively easier calculation-wise, because it's just like a few formulas that you have to know. And that task, guessing that task, will be much worse for you, because then you waste and lose, you can potentially lose the points that you could have gotten relatively easier and in a shorter period of time compared to the inequalities task. So yes, so now with the 7 days left, because I will want to publish it exactly 1 week before the exam, so I'm filming it on the 10th of June, and I'll probably also publish it on the same day. Please check the description for all the details about all the part calculations, the time calculations, because I don't think I will have time to edit it like nicely as I usually do, because I want to give this useful information to you as soon as possible. So yeah. Also, regarding the technicalities, please check how it works on the mock exam too. So you have the notepad where you can type, you have the sticky notes where you can type, and you also have the drawing mode where you can draw all over the task. But keep in mind that when you're erasing stuff from the drawing mode, it erases it symbol by symbol, so you cannot erase everything at once. You have to kind of do it in an annoying way that takes a bit more time. Also, the calculator, please check how the buttons are pressed. Let's say if it's NCK or NCR button, what gives you the combinations, check in which order you have to press each button, so it gives you the correct answer before the actual exam takes place, so you don't have to waste time second guessing if you pressed it right, or like figuring out how the buttons work. Yeah. I think that would be most of the things that I would like to mention. Please check the description if I missed out on anything, I will add it there. And now your best bet would be to check your knowledge. So if you're doing it by yourself, again, maturas, you could try solving a few maturas just to see if you get the relative format, like how the questions are asked, if you get it more or less, because the questions on the exam will be based on them. So sometimes they take the conditions of them and put it in the task, but they make their own statements. So it would be good to practice them, but please keep in mind that the matura task is easier and shorter compared to the exam task. I've also posted a bunch of reels with shorts with task examples from my course in the exam simulation that you can check out and try to solve yourself. So because those are the difficulty of them is comparable to the one that you expect to see on the entrance exam. And let's say if you're interested to check your knowledge, or if you were kind of on the right path when you were studying by yourself and now it's kind of the final revision stage, you can also, or if you're studying with me in the course, you can also check out the additional exam simulation that I offer here. And there you will get basically one full exam simulation with all 33 questions. You will also get one additional just mathematics one, because, well, I'm a math teacher at heart. And there the questions are a bit more difficult. So the first one is nice. It's updated to 2025 exam requirements and standards. And then the math, just the math part, it's a bit more difficult. I made it on purpose like that, so you can expect easier, so you know how to solve easier and more difficult questions as well. And actually I have a very funny story that I had a student from last year, very smart student. He got in and he basically took my exam simulation. And after the first part, like after the full exam simulation with all the 33 questions, he was like, I felt so great that I will for sure get in. But after he did just the math part simulation, he was I was so frustrated. I was like, okay, it's over. But then he got in. So yes, the second part of the math exam the second part of the simulation with just the math questions, it's a bit more challenging. It's like that on purpose. So don't expect to have like super high results there compared to just the overall simulation with 33 questions. But still a fun experience. So, you know, as they say, train hard, fight easy. So when you get used to questions that are maybe a bit more difficult, or more or less on the same level, because of course one topic can be a bit more difficult or one topic can be a bit less difficult, it equals itself out in the end. Yeah, you can try it out. And you will also have the general webinar with my advice when I'm going through and answering your questions, and also paying attention to tricky statements that I made, so you know how to avoid making those little maybe slip-ups or falling into the traps on the actual exam day. And also you will have the solutions to the math part posted there as well, because that's the most challenging part, so to say, to figure out on your own. Therefore you will see everything, so you will see your score, your answers, what you got wrong and right, and also the solutions to those, like how we would ideally solve them, so to say, but also different approaches because sometimes you have a graphical approach and an equation approach, and you can choose for yourself which one you prefer. And at this point also, yeah, as you can see, it's getting harder for me to talk because I've been teaching the whole day since 11 a.m. until around 8 p.m. So yeah, that's going great. I hope you're all feeling not as stressed as you were before watching this video. I hope I cleared up some stuff and I structured the information in a way that makes you come up with the best strategy for yourself or that you will use on the exam day. And I wish you best of luck with everything and hope to see as many of you as I can on campus. Please study, but please also take care of your mental and physical health. You should take breaks. You should eat and sleep well. Of course, you will drink a few coffees here and there, but you know, that's just part of the game. And always remember that everything you don't study now, or like the effort you maybe don't want to put in now, it will unfortunately catch up with you later. So please, 7 days left. If you have some final revision steps to do, or if you want to learn something, do it now, so you don't regret not doing it on the exam day. Because a funny story here, I've launched the visa course for the German program. And the moment I got into BBE, I stopped learning German that actively. Let's say I was learning it in high school for the fun of it, because I wasn't sure like how my studies will plan out. So I was also learning it, and I got to a B1, B2 level. And then the moment I got into BBE, I was like, yeah, I want to learn German. I just took a few courses, like there are language courses in Vienna as well, that are also provided by WU. And I was like, just for fun of it. But now that I have to help out my colleague Florian with, let's say, video editing and some responses and stuff, with the admin stuff, the German language that I should have learned to a C1 or a C2 perfectly has caught up with me so much. And now it's like basically an intensive German C1 course for me, with all the additional work that requires for the admin stuff and for the managing stuff of it. So yes, so use my story and my lesson to your advantage, so to say, and learn as much as you can within these 7 days. And of course, the night before the exam, rest well, get enough sleep, because let's say at that point on the last day, it's not about your knowledge, because you cannot really learn that much more. It's about performing well on the exam day. It's about being kind of well collected and not as stressed. Try to maybe gaslight yourself into thinking that's not it's not that important of a day, because when you put too much stress and pressure on yourself, you might overthink stuff. You might mark the correct option and then overthink and mark it incorrectly, and it kind of will decrease your score. And yeah, so try to be less stressed. Of course, it's easier to say than to do it, but usually the anxiety of waiting, it's much worse than actually taking the exam. Let's say like now you're probably feeling a bit anxious. Also, 1 hour before the actual exam will be a super anxious waiting time. Maybe you'll get some butterflies in your stomach and so on and so forth. But trust me, the moment you start writing the exam and you'll be fully focused on the exam itself, the anxiety will go down. You will get yourself together and start solving the tasks one by one. So yes. Then thank you so much for watching. Feel free to comment, like, ask, subscribe, and all that stuff. And see you in the next video. Bye bye.